Hello everyone, welcome back to another Weird Wednesday here at Studio Ellipsis. My name is Astra and I'm the community manager. And this week's episode is a bit different since we are taking a moment to think and to reflect a bit about the future. I don't know if you noticed it, but we live in some weird times. Every week some new discovery makes you feel like the line between our reality and whatever sits on the other side is getting thinner. And as creators, it is thrilling, but with so much going on, it can get confusing and sometimes a bit scary. With Weaverflow, we got to see firsthand what new tech can do when used with our soul. But as Dr. Lucian keeps on reminding us, it works only when we put the human at the center. So we do not let any model, however advanced it can be, create the game that you will one day play. Nothing would be possible without the talent and craftsmanship of our talented team. It just wouldn't be possible at all. Technology is a catalyst, not the author. So we wanted to open this conversation wider. This week's episode is a panel from DevGamm Lisbon from a few weeks ago. And it's our way of asking, together with you, what it feels like to create nowadays.
So thank you everyone for joining. So AI is a big topic nowadays. We're going to approach it in a way you're used to, but also in a new way. And just like the name say, explore new frontiers with AI in game creation. We have a very diversified panel. We have a business person, a tech person, an academic, a marketing and narrative person, and a creative and studio management person. I will let you guys introduce yourselves, and then we'll...
Hello, I'm Brian Mashinter, currently the founder of Mash Labs, which is a consultancy, but historically I've been a product owner in mobile games for about 20 years.
Hi everyone, I'm Nono. I'm the founder and CEO of Nilo, which is a platform for people to create games using generative AI. Think AI Roblox. And previously I've been working in games such as Fortnite and Fables. So I've been working in technology for game engines for about 15 years.
Hi, everybody. Yeah. My name is Phil Lopez. I'm assistant professor at Lusofana. I'm director of the Game AI course, of the Master in Game AI course at there. And yeah, my background is in artificial intelligence, mostly in emotion recognition using biosignal processing to recognize emotions and how that can be applied to games and how humans react to games and using that type of information.
Hi, my name is Adrienne, or Ads. I am the founder of a marketing agency. I spend my life living in a mix of blockchain and AI. I have been alive long enough to have lived through the digital marketing revolution and now living through the AI marketing revolution. Very passionate about human-centric outcomes in this crazy new world.
Hi, I'm Alex. I lead Studio Ellipsis, but I think head of studio is a bit fancy. I'm just creative.
Very well. So let's start how AI influences your pipeline acceleration, let's say. So starting with Alex and Adrian, where has AI actually shaved time from your process, and where did it create hidden depths?
Actually, quite a few places. Let's say when we started the latest game that we're currently making, it really sped up our process for creating art, for example. It allowed us to explore very quickly a lot of different art styles, and none of it was kept for the actual game. But something that would have taken maybe, I don't know, 6 months or a year to explore took us maybe 6 weeks, and then we refined. And at one point, when we thought that we had something that really captured the essence of what we were looking for, then you get an artist to actually add in the magic. And the art style that we have now, we actually announced the game, and some of you might have seen the video, like all of that was derived from that process. Of course, that was created by artists, but it was sped up by the process of using AI.
So we use it in a variety of different ways. I think it is phenomenal for prototyping. I think it's phenomenal for grunt work. It will research like nothing else. It will crunch huge amounts of information for you. For me, it is used best when you use it to extend yourself. And for me, the greatest hidden debt is when people start to outsource thinking. That, to me, has the biggest potential risk for the future.
Very well. For Nuno and Brian, so AI will create new roles and new skills. What roles do you think that it will appear or have appeared on your team that would have not existed 5 years ago?
I think I'm working with a company in Finland called 7 Stars, and what we have is we have the AI person. Like, we actually have somebody who has spent the time and the energy to dig in, because there's a new tool like every week. There's something, if you use Scenario, there's like, hey, we've now plugged into whatever. So you need somebody just to pay attention to all the tools and be able to test them and understand what is and going to what's going to add value, what's not, what's going to help you, what's not. So, for instance, like some of the photorealistic video things don't work for us because ours is more cartoony, and we've tried to use them a couple times, and every time, like a few frames in, it pushes towards its programming of photorealistic, and so we can't use some of those tools. So, I think you're going to have the AI expert because everything is just moving so fast.
Yeah, it's quite interesting to see all the new roles that technology revolutions bring. I mean, who would have thought that just a few years ago, commenting on other people playing video games would be a job? It's like, but it is. And so the same things are happening now with this new revolution. And for our team, one of the things that I've seen is the rise of being generalist. Like, our designers, I am giving them subscriptions to Cursor and teaching them how to program with Cursor so that they can do much more than just design. And programmers are also now leveraging a lot of the new tools that allow them to create art, so that now the roles become blurred. And I've always thought that depth is more important than breadth, because with depth comes naturally breadth. But I think this new wave of AI is actually enabling a new kind of generalist, and it's rewarding more people becoming a little bit more general and crossing fields. And I think over the next 5 years, we're going to see this kind of hybrid roles that map to many different functions at once, and they will bring superpowers to teams rather than a specific specialization.
Very well. For Phil, if creative work now means creating databases, refining prompts, and directing models instead of drawing and coding, what skills will actually matter in 5 years from now?
That's a bit of a loaded question, but I mean, I don't agree that these types of systems will ever replace humans. I mean, just like these last weeks, I've been in master thesis defenses where people are trying to use LLMs and doing all this prompt engineering. And I think people fail to realize that these systems are not deterministic. So meaning that you can put a prompt and one day you get one result and the next day you get another. And a lot of times that's not what people want. It can be nice for generating ideas, for stimulating creativity, but the fact is you will always need somebody to then tweak it to exactly the thing that you want. Because doing prompt engineering is kind of like you have a leaking boat and you're like trying to, fill in the gaps of the water, but things will just start to leak from somewhere else. And that, I feel like, is more of a waste of time than actually just doing the thing that you want to do. So for prototyping, for these types of things, I feel like these types of systems can be helpful, but I don't agree that they will ever replace creatives in any way, shape, or form. Especially now that the knee-jerk reaction of the being influenced by systems like ChatGPT and think, oh wow, but then people start to realize the affordances of these systems, and these systems are not as great as people tend to suggest. Not to mention also the fact that we require a lot of resources just to make these systems work, to the point that you have people discussing they want nuclear reactors just to power their servers, right? Which is, to me, insane. So that's not sustainable to me in any way, shape, or form. But that is where I stand. But
Okay.
I'm a cynical academic, so that's it.
I would actually just disagree that it's not costing jobs, because it is. It is costing some jobs right now. It just is. Whether that's a junior concept artist, whether that's a junior data analyst, I do believe that some people are, in fact, losing their jobs to AI.
I agree, but people will soon realize that's a mistake.
Ads made a really good point earlier that I think connects directly to this. It's the fact that AI is a tool, an amplifier for intelligence. It doesn't replace it. And I think that it's going to even broaden the difference between people that excel and people that average. Because people that excel will find all of their processes sped up, and it will push them even further. I think it will widen the gaps, if you will. And I think that the real problem is that what we're seeing related to the entry-level positions being eliminated, I think has to do a lot with that. The problem in that is that it's not just that the fact that it's kind of widening the gap between intelligence levels, but it's also the fact that some intelligent people come in at entry level and need experience to go up, and those people will be penalized as well.
Very well. So now moving to another perspective, like when technology redefines art. So for Adrian, if AI made piece can move us, does that mean the magic was always in us, in the audience, not the artist?
So I think this question is as old as time. We've always struggled to understand, whether life imitates art or art imitates life, whether the creative act is in the creation or in the interpretation. The reality is a very boring response, which is that it's both. The moment that you observe a piece of art and you have a response to it, you are interacting in a creative endeavor with the creator of that work. If the creator of that work ceases to be human, that interaction is still taking place. So I guess very boring, but it's not a binary. I think the creative act is collaborative.
So AI is part of the creating. Very well. And Alex, what happens when AI stops imitating us and starts creating something we've never seen before? Will we recognize it as art?
You sound like a bit like AI right now. That's an easy one, sorry. I think that I don't think the question is answerable in its current form, because AI is a sum of the parts that are poured into a model that come from humans. So what happens when you stop pouring new stuff into it? Right now, it doesn't create anything. It just regurgitates. And not to say that it can't regurgitate something cool and coherent, but it's still regurgitating a form, a combination of stuff that was poured into the model. I read a while back already ago, like a few months, I read an article about when does AI stop being innovative, because it's gone through all of the stuff that we could pour into it. It's already devoured the internet. So what happens when there's no more data? It'll just keep regurgitating the same stuff in different configurations, and it might regurgitate something that you've never heard of, and so it feels new to you, but in fact, it's just probably drawing on some obscure thing that you think is interesting. In a perfect world, you leverage that, and then your brain allows you to process it and spin it into something novel. The apocalyptic version of that is that people stop being able to do that, but that's a whole different problem, right? But I don't think that, I think it's still about people. It's not the AI. The AI is just there, right? It is what it is. It's a tool.
Okay.
It's on us.
So I have one more question for you. What if an AI system can detect player mood through voice or input data and just adjust the narrative tone in real time? Is that art or emotional manipulation?
Okay, you start reading a novel. This character is a really good guy, and then by the end, holy crap, he betrayed the protagonist. He was an asshole. I was manipulated. Same thing for a horror movie. There was nothing behind that door. Now there's something behind the door. The filmmaker just manipulated me.
So he was already there.
I mean, of course, like I would argue that all narrative is about manipulation.
I have an old friend who's a minister who says that all communication is manipulation. Shout out Todd Walker.
Very well. So now in the perspective where human cost became as is, like, can an artist grow without friction, boredom, or mistakes that AI now removes? What we lose when creation becomes frictionless? Maybe to Alex as well, with your artist background, but Adrienne maybe as well.
No, I think that anybody wants to take it. Oh.
Phil want to take
Yeah,
it.
sure. I mean, this is just speculation, though. To me, I think that if this happens, the idea of kind of like perfectionism, so to speak, I feel like after some time, we as humans tend to easily get bored with the same type of concept. And I feel like this is very true if we look back in time, and all the different types of art movements that exist has always been some kind of statement against the current or the current stand or the current movement of that time. And I feel like eventually people will start to rebel against this type of things, probably even purposely putting typos or mistakes within their works as a form of counter culture, so to speak, right? So, but this is just me speculating.
So you think that even if AI gets too good, then we get bored of what they do, and humans need to come again?
I perfectly think that's the case.
I think good is a very subjective word.
Good. Too good.
I think, maybe AI can learn the rules as we define them. AI can produce music that equals any K-pop artist, but whether or not it can be the next Banksy, whether it can create something that not only conforms but subverts, that challenges expectations, that drives reappraisal. For me, perfection lies in the imperfection sometimes. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure I would say that. Yeah, that the framing is.
Yeah. So if you look to AI to help us get perfect, you can stay in the endless loop, getting perfection that we never achieve.
That never amounts to anything. If perfection is, well, I think that posits that perfection is the goal. For me, the art of the act of art, the act of creativity, is to create friction, to create challenge, to drive thought, to create that dialogue between the observer and the creator.
What even is perfection, right? When we start, when photography became a thing, painting became abstract. The rebelling thing, right? So as soon as you think you know what perfection is, humans will flip the switch, and then where does that take you? Like, if perfection was the objective, then the picture would be the summum of art because it reflects perfectly, and we would be talking about megapixels in terms of how good is this artist? Well, they were using a 1 million megapixel thing, so if you can really zoom in and almost see the cell, I mean, that's not the point, right?
I mean, I also live in a world in which copywriters are already embracing imperfection in order to mark their work as not being AI generated, where people are ceasing to capitalize and use appropriate grammar because to do so marks them as AI.
I also want to kind of push back on the idea of perfection. I mean, these systems will also never produce anything perfect because, I mean, they're using human-generated data most of the time. And we are humans. We never do anything perfect.
We are imperfect.
And a lot of those things will also just add a lot of noise, which people call hallucinations and things like that. But, I mean, that's also not going to happen, in my opinion.
Okay. Then I want to hear the academic and business perspective on this one, so for Phil and Brian. Why does admitting you use AI in your creative process still feel like a confession? What are we really afraid of, losing credibility, authorship, or the illusion that creativity is purely human? What does that shame reveal about how we define artistic and value?
Sure, I can start. I mean, I think it comes with a bit of a stigma to it because well, first of all, when we talk about AI, we mostly talk about like large language models and things that like generative AI, right? But the stigma comes from the fact that I feel we as humans have this sense of propriety when it comes to anything that is creative. Like, if you ask anybody, like, oh yeah, creativity, that's something that is inherently human. And saying that a machine can do that for you is kind of like almost going into this uncanny valley, right? It's kind of, the first reaction is kind of disgust or rage. And I think it comes from this stigma. But as we, and this is the thing, that as we start to use these systems and treat it as they are, like just tools, they're not there to replace us. I feel like these things will start to, these types of emotions will start to cool down. And also, I mean, just to say, it's, these systems are limited, right? And I mean, if it helps me just quickly answer emails because I have 50 emails, sure, why not, right? I'm still going to reply. If it helps me condense some type of text, also, why not? But I'm still going to be skeptical of what it says, right? That's the thing. We always need to have this bit of notion that, okay, not everything that it says is going to be true, right? But we need to, at least it helps me, at least in my day-to-day, just more or less.
See, that's part of the problem, is that a lot of people don't do that. They just offload it. They're just like, okay, now this whole part of what I have to do in a day or my life, I'm just going to just outsource it to AI and not question. That's the problem.
So I think there's two kind of reasons it feels like an admission, or why it feels there's still some shame. One is that I think both the public and ourselves and creatives, it's easy for it to feel like cheating. So I used to live in Boulder, Colorado, where there was a bunch of cyclists, and if you rode an e-bike, the eyeballs you would get for, oh, you're cheating, you're not whatever. You're like, I'm using a bike. Pressure. I'm not, but it's like, it's not a car. Isn't that good? Right? So it's one of those things, it feels like cheating to purists. So I do think that that's part of the thing, is there's this sentiment of, oh, you cheated. And I think that comes from a couple of places. One of them is our own value. My salary is based on my experience, my knowledge, my value, you know, and some of those things. And all of a sudden, if a machine applies how much of that value, what does that do for me? And so that's why I think that's, honestly, I think those things are connected, why there's still some shame to it. But I do, ultimately, it just feels like, oh, did you really do the work? Did you really do the work? And if you didn't really do the work, then why should I pay for it? Or what is its actual value? I think that's really the root of it.
In my opinion, related to that, everybody's job is a sum of different components and of various values. There's, in everybody's job, there's part of it that's kind of clerical and sort of like structural, or just like things that are kind of the foundation. Then you have the stuff where you can bring real value. In my opinion, AI is really good at speeding up and even eliminating the more clerical parts, so that you can increase the percentage of your day that you spend on those things where you're really paid for, the things that are really value things. And I've always seen AI as being that. Like, if I can spend more than 15% of my day doing the stuff that's really valuable, and I can bring that up to 30, and AI can help me do that, that's amazing. But AI will never help me on that 15%. I mean, so far. it's just not able to do
Also,
it.
just to reply to both questions, both comments. First, I think this idea of cheating is interesting, but then also I push back on the idea like, okay, but we all use automated systems. Is using a calculator cheating? Should I just take out a piece of paper?
According to my high school math teacher, absolutely.
Yeah, no, but I mean, like, to what point exactly does it,
There's a line.
Yeah, what's the line, right? And then to also comment on Alex's point, is that I think, at least just to being an academic, I feel like it comes also with the degree of education. So in the sense of, I think universities, at least higher education institutes, should now, and this is something that we've, at least at Lusofna, have been trying to do, is that it's not just about the process or using, let's say, knowing how to program. It's now more about trying to reflect on what you're doing. So trying to reflect on, even if you use a LLM, right? We want the student to explain to us, okay, why did you do this in this way? So it's in this new age of, let's say, education, right, or trying to train new professionals, we also have to adapt in the sense of trying to imbue a sense of not only cynicism, but also the idea of questioning and self-reflection and being able to, like, question everything that you do, right? So I think that is also part of our job as professors, to also be able to imbue that into students and not just the technical aspect of it. And I think that is where I think the future and way to combat this slowly. I'm not going to say that it's perfect, but it's currently the one way to do it, and over time we will.
The why,
yeah,
it becomes important more than the what.
exactly.
So I agree with Brian, but I also see a lot of people proudly admitting that they use AI as their co-researcher. Lots of papers are like, oh, me and my co-author, ChatGPT or Claude. And I think there is actually a 42-year-old math proof that a mathematician just proudly said, hey, AI helped me solve this. And they actually wanted other people and encourage other researchers to use AI because it's actually helpful. And so there's a part of it, there is actually shame and, oh, I don't want people to think that I'm outsourcing my thinking. But there's also another way in which I think that we're just living in interesting times. We're at this transition period where we still don't know how to exactly grapple with things. And so we're seeing a spectrum. People that proudly say that they're using AI and they want other people to know that it's actually helpful, and other people thinking, I don't want to outsource my thinking. And so we're still evolving as a society how to actually use this.
Okay.
Just one last thing. Like last week, I actually hired a creative director. And for me, there was stigma associated with people that weren't intelligently engaging with AI. Mm-hmm. And I did interview some people who were rejecting it and standing on more of a purist ground. And for me, actually, the stigma was inverse.
Very well. So I'm going to take some of the things you mentioned, going now more in the ethnic side of AI. You mentioned the red line. Is there an ethic red line in AI and entertainment, like deep faking a deceased actor? Is it would you use it even if it's legal and profitable?
I think people should own their own IP.
Their own self.
Right? It's super simple.
So that would be one red line.
I mean, for me, it's not really relevant as I don't really develop products, but I do think that there is an ethical line there also. I mean, despite saying that these are tools, I mean, all tools can be used for nefarious reasons, right? So, I'm not sure. For me, I mean, I think that it is an ethical red flag right there, right? And also, I mean, from like manipulating voices, or even like generating news, or using these systems make it way easier to do this. And this is obviously the very downside of such technology. It just makes it easy to flood the internet with noise and misinformation and crap, where people just have to dig through all the crap in order to just get like a tiny bit of gold, so to speak. And it's just gone.
So to you, to Adrian, do you need like machine and ethics board inside the studio, or is that more like performative theaters to smooth public anxiety?
I think the audience can probably guess where I'm going to go with this. So I think it beholds us to do what we can. And I think any endeavor is worthy. I think ethics ultimately reside in the individual. You decide what you think is right and what you think is not right. For me personally, it's value to the creators of value. So back to that IP point, and it's do no harm. I think that when it comes to ethics boards, outside of that individual stance, honestly, it feels a little bit like moving deck chairs on the Titanic. We're in the process of giving phenomenal power to a small number of already extremely powerful individuals. The idea that, you know, an ethics board is going to move the needle, I think it might feel good. We might feel like we're doing something. But ultimately, I think, you know, you decide how you use it. And everything else is fairly out of our hands.
You know, there's also, I think often we look at the wrong problem. We look at it from the wrong angle. One very quick example. I don't know if you guys have been following what's been happening with Stable Diffusion, and James Cameron just won kind of a legal case regarding this. The whole point was that they were being sued, I think, by Getty Images for training data. Okay, and the reason he won is he brought up a completely bulletproof argument. His argument was, we're walking around with 3.5-pound meat computers. We are walking models, like models walking through space-time. We get our training data from the stuff that we read, that we watch, and everything. Should we really be looking at the stuff that goes into a training data, or should we be looking at the stuff that comes out of the training data? I grew up on Star Wars. If I go and write Star Wars, well, first of all, nobody's going to give me money to do it, and this is directly quoting James Cameron's example. Like nobody's going to give me money to do it, and if I do, I'm going to get sued. So it's our responsibility to kind of filter our references through our brains and create something that's original. And I think that this is the same rule for AI. And just one example is that sometimes we look at the problem from the wrong angle, right? I think that we need to be careful and focus on the right things. I think that humans are much more dangerous than AI. To Matt's point, like the problem is who is using it, and those small people that are kind of essentially, godlike, taking control of the world. As AI becomes more and more powerful in terms of its ability to kind of analyze situations, it's almost unimaginable what the power that these people will wield.
I don't know if anybody was following the elections that happened in Nepal in September. I find it absolutely astonishing that the outcome of that election was largely influenced by ChatGPT. That you know, students who weren't sure who to vote for were flocking to ChatGPT in droves, asking for advice and voting accordingly. Yes. According to a Times article.
Well, so focus, like you're saying, was focus on what comes out and what goes in, also because I guess AI throws something out, but the human needs to take from the AI to the world. There's a human still influence in that step. Yeah. So Alex, you said before that emotional manipulation was part of art. Would you use AI to make it more effective for the players? Or for the experience?
I've always been a fan of, theoretically, of kind of procedural narratives, even though up until recently it was very difficult to create something that was of real value. For those of you old enough, you remember branching narratives, right? Branching narratives are, I mean, not that old because Bandersnatch was quite recent and that was a branching narrative. It's super expensive, and the business argument of that makes total sense, is 80% of the content that you're creating, nobody's ever going to see, right? So why build it? Most people, I forget what the percentage is, but it's super high, go through it once. So from their perspective, oh, it was a cool experience, but they don't even understand that there was more. So that's not the way to go. I think AI really does open the door to creating real procedural narratives, and I think that I haven't seen yet enough of serious consideration going or investment going into that. Maybe it's happening, but I haven't seen it. So that is total manipulation, because it is taking, it's analyzing the way you're playing, your emotions, and then it's responding in turn. I don't see that as a bad thing. You know you're in a game. The bigger problem is when that is happening in the real world, to the point that we were making earlier about like deep fakes and stuff like that, or misinformation. That's the real problem. In entertainment, you know you're going into a fake world. You do know that everything is happening is in some way manipulation.
It's a tool. Whether it's good or bad depends on how that tool's used.
I just want to also just push a little bit back, because there is the let's say the risk of also addiction, right? So the idea of manipulating players, because I mean, obviously for narrative can be interesting, but there's also the aspect of trying to manipulate people in order just to stay in the game by offering like small prizes or things like that, or like just maintain players for as long as they can. And AI can potentially do that based on creating an individual model of the person and seeing what are their tendencies, blah, blah, blah. Like all the, I mean, that's still AI, right? So.
But then again, it's yes, but this is also an existing problem.
Sure, for
right?
sure.
Like a casino has been doing
Yes.
that for like.
The algorithm.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, you know, I agree with you, but again, we go back to the fact that it's just a tool.
So looking into the future, I have philosophical questions. Anyone can answer. So if AI becomes a sentiment, so it can start to predict and feel things and achieve godlike awareness, is it a new spiritual milestone for humanity? Is it an apocalyptic event or an enlightenment event?
It could be either or both. It will depend on how it's used, who holds the power and how they wield it. Power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely. We are in an age where people are in a position to accrue close to absolute power, whether it's AI that's godlike or Sam Altman and his mates. You know, it depends how they wield it.
And I don't think it's an event. I think it's going to be very, very gradual. Like we've seen AI advance over time. And yes, a lot of people are going to be very powerful, but also we all have access to these models. They're in our pocket. So everyone has access to PhD level chemistry and math and everything. So at the same time, everyone is getting access to these tools and it's being democratized as well. So I actually think that, you know, there are benefits to humanity by distributing access to this technology.
I mean, for me, considering the current algorithms, I don't think that's ever going to happen, because we're already kind of reaching a plateau of the limitations of such systems. But I would argue that in some degree, it's already a very powerful tool, to the sense that it's easy to manipulate and fake any type of data and just publish it on the internet, right? And people literally now can mask their faces in real time and things, and their voices, and stream them. And you know, I mean, we're kind of reaching that kind of Philip K. Dick kind of, you know, Scanner Darkly thing. People just transform into others and just, you know, I mean, it's already here, right? So yeah. I mean, it doesn't need to become sentient or a god. It's already a very powerful tool, and that's why we need tools in order to self-reflect and also be able to be a bit cynical on things, I guess.
Well, so we're getting to the end. I have two more questions. One is for
That's
Alex.
an interesting question.
Yeah. one for Alex, like in looking for the future, recently announced a partnership with Everflow to translate fear into measurable data. Do we risk building a world where the unknown no longer exists? Does humanity become when there's what does humanity become when there's nothing left to fear or nothing left to discover?
Can fear be eliminated? I mean, I don't think so. And I think that also when there is nothing left to know, I don't think, and this goes back to your previous question about like sentience and godlike, I don't think that can happen. Before going into entertainment, I actually started studying in science, physics, all right? And there's this theory that I happen to believe in, whereas that the deeper you dig into the world, the more you realize that everything is fake. Like from a physics standpoint, like matter doesn't exist, energy doesn't exist. The only thing that we haven't been able to disprove is information and self-looping information, which is information observing itself, which is what we call awareness. That is the only thing that science today has not been able to say, that's not real. So what does this tell you? It tells you that consciousness comes from outside the construct. This is a projection of consciousness. We are agents of one thing observing itself from various points of view. That means that if consciousness is inherent and comes from outside the projection, how can you create it inside it? You can't. So I don't think AI can be conscious, which isn't to say that it can't be super intelligent and do godlike things and be dangerous, but it comes without consciousness. That's even more dangerous, if you will. So I don't think there's any way for us to kind of solve all the problems we're even with AI, like or there will always be unknown.
Very well. So my last question is also for everyone is, if there's a boundary you refuse to cross, even if the tech makes your life easy, and if there's a boundary you're eager to cross in the next year using AI.
I mean, I would love to outsource all of my admin. And I would love to retain thought. So that 15%, that kind of creative engagement, that search for reframing, for subversion over conformity. But I would like to see AI as an accelerant, as a force multiplier in that endeavor. And then the line that personally I will never cross is harm. You know, I think I work in marketing. I actually worked in the drinks industry for a long time. So I played a role in helping people embed a toxin in most of their important occasions. I'm very aware of the power of narratives and storytelling to do harm, advertently or inadvertently, and trying to hold myself to account to not do harm, I think is the line that I will try my best not to cross.
Very well. Anyone else? If not, we can leave some time for questions. Very well. Then.
Everybody's crossing lines.
Exactly.
Well, maybe we all agree with yours.
How long do we have for questions? We have 3 minutes for questions. Is there anyone in the audience that want to have a question to the panel? Go ahead.
Hi, Miguel Oliveira, CEO, co-founder of Druids AI. Super great panel, very insightful. Very insightful panel, thought-provoking. In terms of technology in general, there's always an adoption curve, right? Where at some point it becomes just the thing that everybody uses. Nobody even talks about it. And unfortunately, panels like these won't be necessary because it's just the everyday thing. Do you think it's going to be an event? Nuno, doesn't sound like you feel like it's an event. Where do you see that happening in the future? Is it an event or is it just something that needs to occur or just time? And if it's time, like how much time are we talking about?
There's a great book that talks about this, which is Crossing the Chasm, which is exactly what you're talking about. First, you have the innovators, and then you have the early adopters, then you have the laggards, you know. And I think there's going to be that wave again, as people like us here, we're very privileged in the West, you know, have access to technology and internet and innovation and everything. and we'll adopt it first, and then eventually there will be that chasm that will cross until, now you have your grandma using Facebook. Before it was just for the kids. Now it's not cool anymore. Same thing will happen with AI, I believe.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that the curve is, once it gets boring, people will just assimilate, I guess, to it to some degree.
I'm somewhat of an optimistic doomer. I think that I worry for my generation. I worry for mums in particular who don't have 2 minutes to rub together, let alone keep up to date with what's going on. I think I think for something that is as transformational a shift, the only comparison that I can think of is the Industrial Revolution. And admittedly, new jobs were created. There was also a couple of decades of social unrest, mass unemployment, massive hardship. So I personally think long-term, we're going to be fine. But I personally also believe we're in for a bumpy ride.
I agree with that. I think that there's going to be a transitional period that's going to hurt a lot. I fear even for moms, but kids that went into the educational system at the exact worst time.
We have to end, I think.
On that positive
So
note.
an applause for the great panel. I hope you enjoyed, and thank you for it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So that was Into the Unknown, New Frontiers of AI in Game Creation. And listening back to it, what stays with me is not what tech itself can do, but that it's the human connections and the kindness that serves us as our moral compass. AI can accelerate us. It can amplify us, help us understand each other better, help us create stories that we could never have, dreamed up alone. And here at Studio Ellipsis with Weaverflow, we are pioneering something that can really force us to challenge ourselves. And sometimes it's really exciting, but it frightens me. So I wanted to hear from you about this subject, delicate as it is. So join us on the Discord and let's talk about it. Until then, happy Wednesday. Stay weird, stay kind, and stay curious.